Once upon a time, there were 3 valiant heroes, chosen by a magical artifact called the Trine. You may have heard another tale of how they met. Let me tell you a story of their latest adventure. Something mysterious and magical was taking place in the forest.
The original Trine was released in 2009. It was developed by Frozenbyte, who also made Shadowgrounds. Frozenbyte is a relatively new studio, currently made up of about 20 people. The sequel to Trine, Trine 2, is a more polished take on the game, which now includes online co-op. Even though the game looks like a standard platforming action game, don't be fooled. Trine 2 focuses on its puzzles. The game controls like a classic platformer, only instead of stomping on Goombas, you're solving various puzzles. There are 3 different characters that you can control and switch between freely, all with different upgradable abilities. The wizard can conjure up crates and planks, as well as levitate objects throughout the world. Upon upgrading his abilities, the wizard can conjure additional objects onto the screen at once. The thief can use her grapple to swing to difficult-to-reach places. She also has a bow, which can be used to hurt enemies from afar. Her bow can be upgraded to fire more powerful arrows. The third and final character, the knight, is the team's muscle. He uses a sword and shield to fight for the trio. He also has a hammer, which can knock over walls and do quite a bit more damage to enemies. He can upgrade his weapons to gain additional effects, such as a frost shield that slows enemies when blocking. In Trine 2, you will spend the game moving from left to right, solving puzzles along your path. Occasionally, you will encounter a section of combat where you will be unable to proceed until the enemies are defeated. The puzzles in Trine are almost entirely physics-based. I found myself using the wizard consistently for the puzzles. They're dynamic in nature, offering many solutions, so some of the time I felt like I was cheating. I came up with solutions that didn't really feel clever. It just felt like I just barely beat the physics. However, most of the puzzles in the game were well designed and enjoyable to complete. The difficulty curve for the puzzles was fairly linear. The game started off as somewhat of a bore, but by the end of the game, I had been stumped by several of the puzzles. The game is also littered with a few boss fights. The 3 major boss fights are all simple puzzles and aren't very memorable. They were easy to solve and reminded me of the game You Have to Burn the Rope. There are also more traditional mini-bosses, which have a health bar and rely on avoiding attacks and whacking them down. The combat in the game is dotted up with very short combat sequences, where enemies will pour from the backgrounds and foregrounds. I found myself using the knight in these sequences, since he is by far the best warrior of the group. The combat feels fairly fluid, but ends up being an easy clickfest. There is no depth in any of the combat. In the end, it's an enjoyable distraction that helps break the occasional monotony of the long stretches of puzzles. To help give the world more variety, you can also pick up experience orbs scattered throughout the levels. Gather 50 of these, and you will gain a skill point. Leveling is linear, so even at the end of the game, you will still only need to gather 50 of these orbs to level. The skill trees, in which the points are used in, are rather small, but offer big changes. Each character gets their own tree, and each upgrade costs various amounts of skill points. The further down the tree you go, the more skill points something costs. I found that a few of the skills, such as the knight's hammer throw, were necessary to progress in the game. This caused problems for me at one point in the game, as I did not have this upgrade and could not figure out how to bypass a puzzle. Although you can reallocate your skill points for free at any time, it would have been nice to know that a puzzle solution was as simple as attaining an ability. The story in Trine 2 is largely forgettable. It's so simple that I'm not going to bother explaining the premise. It exists to give you an excuse to play through the game. The art style of Trine 2 is unique. There is color everywhere, almost so much that it's overwhelming at times. I felt as if without the enormous amounts of bloom, the game wouldn't have looked half as good as it did. Still, The animations, fluidity, backgrounds, and foregrounds just fit together so perfectly, it's like staring at an incredible moving painting. The cutscenes and characters are also well voiced. Everything about the presentation just fits in perfectly, like a fairy tale. It reminded me of the movie Stardust, if you've ever seen that. Trine 2 also includes online co-op. Each player takes control of one of the characters in the game. You play through the game normally, only with your friends. It's definitely a blast, but it doesn't add much replay value. Trine 2 is a worthy sequel of Trine. I enjoyed my time with it, but felt like it could have been much longer. My playthrough took about 5 to 6 hours, and after finishing the game, there's not much else to do but play through it again with friends. I'm excited for what Frozenbyte does next, but I hope that the game's length is extended by some sort of free DLC. If a physics-based puzzle game sounds fun to you, be sure to pick up Trine 2 on Steam for $15.